Well, to discuss that story a little more, I'm joined by Richard Elsen, a political commentator with a deep interest in Zambia. Thanks very much indeed for coming in.
Pleasure.
Richard. So democracy being put to the test in Zambia, and we're hearing conflicting reports about the turnout. So on the one hand, we're hearing that lots of people went to the polls in spite of the rains, but that's not the information you have.
Well, you know, I heard that early this morning, even an hour or two before the polls opened, there were long queues. But then I think the weather broke, and of course the rains in Zambia are very heavy. But I think there's another factor as well, which may be voter fatigue. Zambia is a country which has had about 10 parliamentary by-elections over the last 3 years. Today, of course, the vote is a presidential by-election, and voters also know they're back to the polls in 2016.
Yes, I suppose that could induce some fatigue. But talk us through this particular election. What's at stake here?
Well, of course, you know, there are two main contenders in this race. There is what we call the incumbent, Edgar Lungu, the president of the Patriotic Front. And challenging him is Hakainde Hichilema, who is the UPND leader. The death of Michael Sata gave, I think, the UPND an opportunity in this by-election because, you know, they've been a very united party. They've campaigned very early and been quite clever, whereas the other parties, the PF and MMD, were riven by infighting. That delayed their campaigns. But I think the real issues about this are what you might call the usual issues. And so poverty, I think, is number one. Job creation comes second. Sanitation, health and education are close behind.
So there are actually 11 candidates, from what I understand, but really it's between these two front runners that you talked about.
I would say so, definitely. The MMD vote has collapsed. The party there really was riven with infighting, and for a while Rupiah Banda was their candidate, but that was stopped. I really think it is a race between the two. But I sense that with turnout, I'm hearing turnout is lower than expected, and that usually helps the incumbent.
Right. So who's likely to come out on top, the incumbent or the challenger?
I think it's going to be PF. I think it's going to be close. There won't be much in it. But, you know, I think we all have to remember we're doing this all again in September 2016. And so if UPND lose, you know, I guess for them the campaign starts the day after.
Right. So when will we get the results?
Well, we hope to see the result on Thursday by lunchtime our time.
Right, so in about 48 hours.
Yes, I mean, it's a big country and it takes a lot of time to get the vote.
Now, Zambia has had a history of peace and stability, as we heard in that report.
Yes.
Is that likely to change if this closely fought election becomes, at the end, contentious?
Well, I hope not. I mean, what you say is true. For 50 years, it's been a very peaceful country in southern Africa. There is a lot of stake here, but everything I'm hearing so far tells me that the elections have gone pretty smoothly, not much violence, and not quite as much tension this time round as there was in 2011. So I'm hopeful that whoever loses will do what Rupiah Banda did in 2011 and accept defeat gracefully.
Now, China has been very influential in Zambia. Has there been much discussion of the role of China and perhaps curbing that role as during the campaign? Well,
not this time round, oddly enough. In 2011, Sata made it the centerpiece of his campaign. He came out very aggressively against China. And then surprised everyone within days of gaining power by actually become very good friends with the Chinese. But this time around, that hasn't really been a feature that I've seen. More of a feature has been the mines.
Now, the acting president, Guy Scott, is the first white leader of an African country for a decade. He said he couldn't stand because of the constitution prevented it, because he was not born Zambian. Do you think the Zambian political establishment could have ever accepted a white man as their president?
Well, you know, you're right what the Constitution says, and despite being born in Zambia, his parentage barred him from standing. But, you know, Zambia is the kind of country where race has never really been an issue, and who knows, perhaps one day there might be a white president, but it certainly won't be this time, as we know.
Okay, Richard Elsen, thank you very much indeed for your analysis and comments there.